If you're new to Reboot or a returning player looking to enhance your gear with potential scrolls, but you're not sure how to get them, this might help. Garden gives some through the dailies and quests. The Polo, Frito, and Especia? I don't know how to pronounce that. The portals that appear in the maps, along with the Infernal Wolf portals that appear sometimes while you're grinding, they have a chance of giving you potential scrolls through the hunter pouches after you clear them. In Temple of Time, you can hop around with the Hyper Teleport Rock to skip the quest first off. But also, in Temple of Time, every so often, there's one map per channel that just has a box in it. And that box leads to a room that sells a bunch of goodies. And one of them is potential scrolls. People usually farm these, so it's less likely you'll find them, but if you're willing to take a risk, it's not a bad option. In Root Abyss, Frederick, who randomly appears after you defeat the bosses, he sells them occasionally. He also sells Evan's best in slot armor for some reason. You can't get this anywhere else in the game. I don't know why it's like this. Why can't we just buy the recipes from Ardent Mill? They can also drop from random enemies while grinding, and elite mobs, and sometimes when an elite boss spawns, they drop the boxes after you defeat them. If you pop those, they can give potential scrolls too. You could also take gear 10 levels below your equipped and desired gear that has potential, and shove it onto the higher level equipment that doesn't yet have potential. The one downside to this is if it's, say, unique, and you're putting it onto a piece of gear that doesn't have potential yet, it's going to go down to epic, along with the lines and stats, which might scare off some people, but it's an option if you're not going to use that previous equipment for anything else in the future. And lastly, there's Legion coins. 2 epic scrolls every week for 300 coins each. It's pricey early on, but once you start building up your Legion, this option becomes a whole lot more viable, and it's nice for skipping a tier while cubing. There's other options for potential scrolls, but I figured these would be the most easily accessible ones for people starting from the beginning, or those returning to the game that are new to Reboot and don't know the know-how of how everything works. There are options. Even if you don't like messing with the housing system, doing it is worth it just for talking to your caretaker daily, as the buff they give you every day is pretty nice. That's a pretty useful little buff when you want to grind or you want to do tougher bosses that you don't think you'll get first try. If you need rings early on for cheap, for little to no effort, Treasure Hunter John's ring from New Leaf City questline, Silver Blossom ring from Chaos Horntail, and Noble Ephia's ring from Von Leon. They can all be Starforced, and they can all have potential. They're also useful to hold on to once you upgrade them later, because you can then turn them into Meso and drop gear items once you get them to Legendary. Also, whenever there's events that have rings, it's worth snagging them up if you don't have many yet on your characters. They're pretty nifty and they're useful. Even as just like temporary stats if you can't get rings that can go up to like 15 stars or higher yet, or if you can't afford rings that can go up that high and like actually Starforce them. Bags save a ton of space on characters and they free up a lot of room in the etc. setup and use tabs. You can get them from just about any general store in the major towns like Arcane River, Hennesis, Leafer, so on. And Grandis too, I believe. But Nexon, please, at least for Reboot, consider things to free up our equip tabs. Like, give us bags for androids. Give us bags for familiars. Like, please. I want them so badly. My Ho Young's equipment inventory is so tiny now. I severely want more space. If you can't quite yet afford to buy a Hyper Teleport Rock, they're like 5 mil in the cash shop, and if you get one for a week, it's like 25 mil or so. Or if you just don't want to buy one, you can use the Maple Guide and go to Six Path Crossway. From here, you just go up a little bit and into the Pantheon portal. Then you turn around back to the right, you click the portal again, and you can go to just about any major town fairly quickly. You just click and you're there. Alternatively, you can just click the Maple Guide and just go to the towns anyways every 10 seconds. and a bunch of various maps that you've unlocked, which is pretty nice. Familiars are useful, and you can get some good lines early on, even through common and rare ranks, which are the white border and the blue border respectively. Even at common, you can get things like 15% IED, small amount of drop rate, which is 30%. If it doesn't specify an amount, that's 50%. I believe you can get those from rare, because I have one on my Dawn Warrior, and large amount is 100%, and you get those from epic or unique. Anyways, if you wanted more familiars out, you gotta collect a bunch more cards and get set badges. Thankfully, if you have a higher level character or one with a little more drop rate, you can collect the cards from those various monsters. The easiest ones would probably be like the baby collections, like the snails and mushrooms, red snails, blue snails from Lith Harbor or Victoria Island. I forget what the collection's called. One badge gets you an extra second familiar slot, and 10 badges gets you a third slot. The 10 is a bit harder to get, but once you start unlocking areas like Morass and Esfera, it becomes a little easier to get those medals. Otherwise, a lot of the medals require you to get certain boss familiar cards, which is a pain. Also, you can stack drop rate coupons from the Legion shop onto your familiars with the drop rate, which is an extra 50%. If you have a small drop rate familiar, and then you throw that Legion drop rate coupon on, that's 80% right there. And if you have decent holy symbol or normal holy symbol, that's an extra few drop rate too, depending on the level of it. Tier lists for classes aren't really all that important in the long run. If you enjoy a class enough, play it. Stick with it. Just because other people tell you it's bad doesn't mean you can't play it anymore. Similarly, choosing a top tier class doesn't mean it'll make you any better, or that you'll necessarily enjoy it and have fun. Like, take me for example. I love Ho-Young. Ho-Young's one of the top classes. I didn't even pick Ho-Young because they were one of the top classes. I saw that they could glide around, and I fell in love with them. And I've been playing them every day since, just about. Alternatively, on the flip side, Night Lord is one of the top DPS classes too, and I can't personally stand how frail and squishy they are. It's not my type of playstyle. I respect Night Lords, but I personally don't enjoy playing them, and that's fine. Not every class should be for everybody. If you don't want to be some kooky person like me who has every class minimum level 200 just to try out all their skills, you can just as easily look up specific classes on various wikis and YouTube videos to get an idea of how they play like, and you can see if they're right for you. You might stumble upon a class nobody likes, but it's just right for you. I know people that play Blaze Wizard. You never see people play Blaze Wizard, like, at all. Like, their rankings are tiny, but people still play them, and people still enjoy them, even if they aren't that good, and the tier lists don't say they're all that good. If you enjoy it, they're good. You can get to a point where you're pretty evenly matched with other players. You might enjoy the top tier classes in the game coincidentally, like I do. Just about every class plays very differently, so it's worth trying things out and not conforming to some people's ideas of what's the strongest and bestest-ist. At level 75, you get a quest for the Maple Alliance. Once you do that, you get a mini buff that gives you 5 attack, magic attack, and 5 all stats permanently. It's just a perma buff. You just get 5 attack. That's pretty nice. Don't forget that. There's 2, technically 3, free pets you can get in this game. The first one is from Hilla from the boxes she drops on both normal and hard mode. I believe hard is a higher chance of dropping it, and it's called Blackheart. The issue with this pet, you can't put it in the cash shop storage and move it around to, say, if you have a shared cash shop inventory with explorers, you can't move them over. You can't put them in the cash shop storage and move them around to other characters. The other option for a free pet is through Ninja Castle. It's called Gigantoad, whatever. I've linked a guide in the description for how to do it quick, but the faster you do it, the better drops you can get from the final boss. Oh yeah, that's right, elemental wands and staves can drop from Ninja Castle too. If you play Reboot on a mage, that's pretty nice for anviling. You can do it 3 times a day, and he drops a pet that not only you can cash shop transfer around to your other characters, if they have a shared cache up inventory. But he also has auto buff right out the box. That normally costs like 3k NX, and that's just for free. You can also get these pets fairly easily, even solo progression, and throwing on like an auto HP for 1k NX is a lot cheaper than reviving a pet with a Water of Life that already has all that stuff on it. Plus, Gigantoad makes the cutest face when he's hungry. I have a lot more little tips and tricks that might help newer players, but there's just so many to go over. I made this video mainly because there's way too much of MapleStory that's just undocumented online anywhere well enough, whether it be through random r/MapleStory posts on Reddit or the various wikis. There's like 3 or 4 Maple wikis, and all of them have varying information, even for like bosses that are fairly new that released within the past few years. I don't know how or why, but that's a thing. There's a fair bit documented, but it's far from complete and probably never will be complete, as people discover new things about this game all the time, and sometimes don't even realize it's new or unknown to the public. They just keep that information to themselves until someone realizes and they're like, how'd you do that? And then it gets documented usually. So with my knowledge of the game from playing over the past like 15 years or so, I've been playing since like 2008 or 2009. I might be able to fill in some gaps for those looking to get into MapleStory or back into MapleStory. If you hear me? If you have any feedback or ideas for videos you'd like to see from me in the future, you can always hit me up in the comments down below or on my socials, which will be linked in the description too. I'm always willing to hear people out, and I'm currently having fun making videos, so I'll keep doing it for as long as I have fun with it. I might not make all MapleStory videos, but I'll still probably be centric around video games since that's what I love and know what to talk about the best. Along with other things like animation and stuff, but I'll stick to video games. That's all.